Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Have you ever felt the weight of expectations pressing down on you? Trying to steer your life in a direction you never imagined? What if I told you about a young man, fresh out of high school, who dreamt of Greece, gears, and a simple life in his small hometown, but was instead thrust into a world of city lights, hidden desires, and an education he never saw coming? Get ready, because today we're diving deep into a tale that blurs the lines between family, forbidden passions, and a coming of age like no other. We'll meet Ethan, a country boy with big dreams that clash with his family's grander visions. And then there's Aunt Caroline, a woman whose beauty and charm captivated everyone, but held secrets that would turn Ethan's world upside down. From a last-minute business trip that leaves Ethan alone with his captivating aunt, to a series of shocking revelations and an unconventional education, this story will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about family ties and unspoken desires. What happens when innocence meets insatiable hunger? And how do you navigate a world where the most profound lessons are learned outside the classroom, in the most unexpected of places? Join me as we unravel the intricate web of The Weight of Expectations, a story of self-discovery, forbidden intimacy, and lingering echoes of a summer that changed everything. You won't want to miss a single moment of this captivating journey. My name is Ethan, and that summer, I'd just wrapped up senior year. All I ever really wanted was to stay right here in Harmony Creek. Get my hands dirty, maybe open a custom bike shop or a small batch distillery. I figured I could make a good life for myself, just like some folks around here had. My buddy, Jake, whose dad owned the auto repair shop down on Main, had offered to apprentice me. I pictured it, learning the trade, then taking over a corner of my grandpa's old plot near the state highway, prime real estate. Back during the real estate boom, that land was worth a fortune. But now, with the economy sputtering and whispers of distant conflicts rattling the news, everyone was pouring money into gold, not dirt. My dad had been trying to sell just 10 feet of our frontage to help me out, for tuition or whatever, but for a year, nobody had even bothered to glance at it. I saw an advantage in staying put, building something from the ground up. But my parents, and my grandparents too, they didn't see it that way. They had grander visions. My dad and grandparents, especially, wanted me to get a proper degree, something with a title attached, a professional qualification. But the biggest push came from my uncle and aunt, my dad's brother and his wife, who lived in the city. Uncle Mark, a sharp-suited lawyer, had married Aunt Caroline, a woman who, even from a distance, exuded an almost ethereal beauty and sophisticated charm. To my teenage eyes, Aunt Caroline was the most captivating woman I'd ever encountered. Her skin was impossibly pale, like fine porcelain, and her eyes, a deep hazel, seemed to hold a world of unspoken secrets. She had legs that went on forever, easily standing 5'9". When I was in 9th grade, her hip was still at my eye level. No exaggeration, and she always wore this faint, sweet perfume, something musky and floral that would make my head spin whenever she visited for family gatherings. It was no wonder the older guys in town would lose their minds, nudging each other, saying, "Ethan, your uncle hit the lottery. Got himself a wife that smells like a summer orchard. Pretty as a picture. Those city folks, they're on another level." I'd just shrug it off, embarrassed, muttering, "Don't be ridiculous. You guys, I'll tell Uncle Mark on you." But inside, I knew they weren't wrong. Aunt Caroline truly was breathtaking. Uncle Mark was a lucky man, no doubt, with a wife so gorgeous and enchanting. Every time they came back to Harmony Creek, they'd insistently badger my parents, urging them to send me to the city for college, to become someone important, a civil servant, a white-collar professional. So, with a heavy heart, I resigned myself to their plans. I took the crumpled letter from my dad, a letter of introduction, really, tucked next to a slip of paper with the address, and left. My mind was a whirlwind of reluctance. I didn't want to leave Harmony Creek, not just for the familiar landscape, but because of Sarah, my girlfriend. She was still in 11th grade, and we were so deeply in love, though our affection had only ever gone as far as holding hands. Quick kisses and innocent embraces. Still, I'd noticed how her jeans would sometimes feel damp when we sat close. A natural thing for teenagers, I knew, but a sign of a growing intimacy that felt precious. The idea of trading our quiet moments for some stuffy lectures and career paths I didn't care about felt wrong. I imagined a small shop, a simple life where Sarah and I could share a meal, laugh with our future kids, and that would be more than enough. I tried everything to convince my dad, to make him see my way, but he wouldn't budge. "Look at me, son," he'd say, his voice etched with years of hard work. "I spent my whole life tied to this land, covered in dust and disappointment. I don't want that for you. Knowledge, a good education, that's your ticket out. Ignorance is a heavy burden." And so, he pushed me, practically forced me, to move to the city and stay with my uncle and aunt. My dad had a way of wearing me down, a phased psychological tactic that always ended with me caving. The day I left, he drove me to the bus station. Just as the bus was about to pull away, my uncle texted a last-minute message. "Hey Ethan, I got called away on a business trip to Taiwan. A 3-month project. It'll just be Aunt Caroline at the house. I've told her everything. Just be tidy. Don't make a mess like you do at home. And please, help your aunt out while I'm gone. Okay?" I froze, my mind scrambling, but there was no time to react. No way to change course. The bus pulled away slowly, like a tired old snail, and by the time I arrived, I felt completely drained, the heat of the city merciless. All I wanted was to get to their place, shower, and collapse into bed. Clutching the address, I trudged along the unfamiliar street, squinting at house numbers, half expecting to have made a mistake. Finally, I stood before the right door, my finger hovering over the doorbell. I pressed it, the chime echoing, and waited, a knot of apprehension tightening in my stomach. The silence stretched, long and unsettling, until I heard the distinct click-clack of heels approaching. The door swung open, and I found myself staring at a woman who couldn't possibly be who I was looking for. For a moment, I was speechless, convinced I'd rung the wrong bell. She stood there, too, observing me with an unreadable expression. I finally managed to stammer. Excuse me, I'm looking for Mr. Mark Peterson's residence." On Maple Drive? The woman's voice, clear and resonant, cut through my awkwardness. She stated my full name, then explained that Uncle Mark was away on a business trip to Taiwan, but had left instructions to prepare a room for me until his return. Only then did I dare to really look at the woman who'd opened the door. Oh, it wasn't Uncle Mark, and then the realization hit me. This was Aunt Caroline, but a version of her I'd never seen. A tremor of unease ran through me. What if she was one of those step-aunts from the movies? Cold and demanding? What if she expected me to cook and clean? I swore to myself I'd walk out right then and there. Her voice, melodic and warm like a summer breeze, broke my internal panic. I tried to get him to wait. Ethan, really I did, but he insisted on leaving. Said he had to make the most of this trip. You'll be staying with me. She paused, then, with a playful urgency, added, now, don't just stand there. Bring your bags up. I've already got your room ready. Are you hungry? As if on cue, a woman, even more stunning than the one who'd opened the door, if that was possible, emerged from further inside the house. Her lips a soft, inviting pink. Oh, my goodness, you must be Ethan, my brother-in-law's boy from Harmony Creek. Look at how big you've gotten. And so handsome, too. My goodness. Do you have a girlfriend? Aunt Caroline rattled off the questions, barely giving me a chance to respond. My mind reeled. What was her game? She finished, then gave me a quick, knowing wink, a glint in her eye that I couldn't quite decipher. Yes, Aunt Caroline, I'm Ethan, Dad's son. I'm here to study. And Dad said Uncle Mark had already arranged for me to stay with you both. Yes, big and handsome, just as I remembered, she purred, the compliment laced with an almost mischievous undertone. Your uncle and I already talked to your parents. Don't you worry, you're safe here with me. Just focus on your studies. Thank you, Aunt Caroline. I managed, feeling my face flush. And you look amazing. I barely recognized you. She laughed, a husky, throaty sound. Oh, I look amazing. Do I? Your uncle clearly doesn't think so. It's truly disappointing, Ethan. Oh, no, and I didn't mean it that way. I just meant, I trailed off, realizing I was digging myself deeper. It was then that I truly registered her attire. My eyes darted to her thin, silk camisole, and I could clearly make out the outline of her nipples beneath the fabric. Below, it was even more startling. She wasn't wearing any outer pants, just a tiny pair of pink lace thong underwear. I later learned they were called G-strings. I was completely flustered by her revealing outfit, and before I could even process it, she was explaining herself. Oh, excuse me, darling, I'm just usually alone at home. Didn't expect you so soon, and it's so incredibly hot today. Just trying to stay cool. I almost blurted out, well, why don't you just take it all off? Then, for maximum air circulation? But the sight of that sheer pink lace stopped me cold. She seemed to read my mind, though a smirk playing on her lips. I was actually debating going completely commando, just for the relief. But then I thought, what if someone unexpected drops by? So, this little scrap of fabric just barely makes it decent. Decent? I thought to myself. A young, eager guy like me could hardly handle this level of decent. And then she turned to walk, and I nearly lost my balance, my eyes drawn to the sway of her hips. I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly parched. "Oh, honey, are you okay?" she asked, noticing my discomposure, a hint of amusement in her voice. "Being cramped on that bus in this heat must have left you dusty and drained. Come on, let's get you upstairs so you can rest for a bit. Then I'll call you down for dinner. We can get you cleaned up and refreshed." I stumbled after her, my mind a jumble of inappropriate thoughts. People talk about women having a walk that could make a man trip, and I was witnessing it firsthand. And then there was the way her barely there thong disappeared into her backside with each step. A tiny triangle of fabric almost swallowed, but truly mesmerizing, almost shocking sight. If it weren't for politeness and the awkward family dynamic, I might have said something utterly foolish. "Stop thinking like that, Ethan. She's your aunt." Aunt Caroline opened a door and stood blocking the entrance, gesturing inside. "This is your kingdom, Ethan. Uncle Mark wants you to be comfortable, to focus on your studies. I might pop in from time to time to make sure it's tidy. So don't worry about asking for help. Just make yourself at home." She held the door firmly, and as I squeezed past her, I was hyper-aware of not brushing against her, trying to avoid any accidental contact with her generous curves. Who was this woman? She was more statuesque than I remembered. And then she said, her voice lilting, "My, you've grown into quite the young man. I bet you have a lot of girlfriends, don't you?" I blushed crimson, my face burning as if I'd just chugged a shot of whiskey. But she wasn't done teasing. "Look at you, all shy and embarrassed now. But I bet you're quick as lightning when you're with a girl. Aren't you?" Honestly, I was mortified. If I hadn't been wearing my jeans, I probably would have melted into a puddle right there. But this was all so new, so overwhelming, that I just kept my thoughts to myself, trying to calm the fire spreading through me. Finally, she took pity on me. "All right, go on. Do what you need to do. I'm going to go get dinner ready. When you're done, come down. We can put your clothes away in the drawers later. Just make yourself at home, okay? Don't be shy." I don't know why, but her words, so casual and trusting, made me feel strangely at ease. I tossed myself onto the bed. The thick mattress sank, pulling me into a hazy dreamscape. A sigh escaped my lips. Maybe today won't be so bad after all. I drifted off, only to be startled awake by a whisper. "Ethan? Ethan?" I opened my eyes, disoriented, to find Aunt Caroline lying on top of me. I lay still, frozen, not daring to move. She was surprisingly heavy, almost suffocating. She playfully scolded, "My goodness, for a boy, you sleep like a log. A robber could come and scoop you up, and you wouldn't even know it." Her voice was smooth, a silky thread winding around me. "Aunt Caroline, you're a little heavy," I managed, feigning discomfort, though a strange mix of apprehension and something else I couldn't name stirred within me. My legs going numb, I tried to push her away gently, but she seemed oblivious, her smile wide. "Come on, Aunt, let's go eat dinner." "Oh, what's the fuss, sweetie?" she laughed, her eyes sparkling. "Am I really that heavy? I was just trying to give you a nice, warm welcome. And besides, I bet you liked it. Didn't you? You boys are all the same. pretending to be shy. My husband would never complain if I treated him this way. Aunt Caroline's beauty was undeniable, but her frankness was startling. "Are you saying you don't like your old aunt, Ethan?" she pouted, a playful accusation in her voice. "No, Aunt, of course not," I quickly countered, trying to sound convincing. "It's just you're my aunt. What if Uncle Mark saw us? He'd kill me." I intentionally stressed the familiar connection, hoping it would make her pull back. But instead, she seemed to revel in my discomfort, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Uncle Mark? What? You're afraid of him? He's not even here, is he? What's there to be scared of?" She leaned in, her voice a seductive murmur. "Besides, if I left you alone, who would protect me from the ghosts? You think I want to be taken away by some evil spirit? You're smarter than that, Ethan." Before I could even process her words, Aunt Caroline leaned down and pressed her lips to mine. Her kiss was sweet, intoxicating, like warm honey. She devoured me with a fervor that left me breathless, my face burning. "This is it, then. This is really happening." I tried to push her away, my arms flailing, but she was surprisingly strong. "Easy, tiger," she purred, holding me firm. "Let Auntie show you how to truly relax. We can still get dinner after. I bet you're starving, aren't you?" I stared at her, dumbfounded. Sometime during the embrace, her camisole had vanished. She was now wearing only that tiny, beautiful pink thong. She truly was stunning, not a single blemish on her skin, as smooth and flawless as a peeled egg. "Just relax, Ethan. No need to hide anything. Uncle Mark won't be back anytime soon to see anything." And then she took the lead, her movements confident and unhesitating. It was true what they said about women in their prime. They had an undeniable hunger. Aunt Caroline looked at me like a cat spotting a bowl of cream. "Wow, Ethan," she whispered, her voice husky. "You're quite impressive. Must be at least 8 inches. Huh? Not like your Uncle Mark. He's tiny down there. Good thing he makes a lot of money, or I would have left him years ago." I was shocked, completely flustered by her candor. But strangely, in that moment, all my embarrassment evaporated. It felt as if I'd known her forever, that we were intimately familiar, like close family, but in a way I could never have imagined. Then, Aunt Caroline gently scolded me, her voice soft. "You're so stiff, Ethan. It's just us two here. Why are you still wearing your boxers? Making yourself uncomfortable? Are you afraid of me? It's just us. Come on. Auntie wants to see." Seeing my hesitant compliance, she grinned, clearly pleased. "Good boy. How about we just do this right here in the living room?" She proceeded to teach me things I couldn't have even dreamed of. A whirlwind of sensations and positions, making me feel like a spinning top. She called one move the rice sack carry, describing it in such vivid detail that my head was swimming trying to keep up. Oh, dear Lord, my aunt-in-law, if I had known this was part of the education here, I might have volunteered to come to the city years ago. Thank you, Auntie, for taking pity on me. A month passed like a blur. I ate, I wore clothes, but every night, I slept with Aunt Caroline. It was a period I felt the most profound shame. One afternoon, I returned from my classes, and Aunt Caroline called out softly, "Ethan, come here, sweetie." Auntie has some candy for you." "Auntie, I'm too old for candy," I replied, my voice a little weary. "Oh, no, this isn't that kind of candy," she teased. "This is for grown-ups." "Oh, goodness, look at you standing there all serious. And is that red underwear you're wearing today? Auntie's starving here. Come on, come inside. Let's get you comfortable." "Just a minute, Auntie. I need to shower. It's so hot," I said, my voice trailing off. "I know, sweetie. I'm just about to take one myself," she replied, her voice husky. "The weather's crazy today, isn't it? Come on in. Let's get cool together." "But I'm hungry," I protested weakly. I know," she said. "I've got some eggs and hot chicken soup waiting for you. Eat that after you're done. Then we can take a nice, long shower together and, well, let's just say we'll make sure you're properly cleansed." That day, she left me completely spent, like a ghost of myself. After our activities, I was finally slurping down my soup when, without a word of warning, Uncle Mark walked in. He looked at us, Aunt Caroline and me, laughing and talking at the kitchen table. And he smiled. "Well, look at you two," he chuckled. "You two seem to get along great, don't you?" I hadn't even had a chance to introduce myself properly, but it seemed to him as if we were already old friends. "Oh, you're back, darling," Aunt Caroline chirped, a knowing twinkle in her eye. "This Ethan, he's a good boy from the countryside, but he's a wonderful helper, always tidying up and so respectful." I sat in stunned silence. Then, Uncle Mark's expression hardened. He looked directly at Aunt Caroline, his eyes cold. I panicked, ready to bolt, but there was nowhere to hide. "Caroline," Uncle Mark said, his voice sharp, "he may be your nephew, but you should still show some discretion. What are you doing walking around like that? And no underwear again today?" He must have caught a glimpse of her. I braced myself for a furious argument, but Aunt Caroline simply shrugged, an air of nonchalance about her. "Oh, darling, really? Making a fuss over nothing? It's scorching hot outside. I'm lucky I even bothered to throw on a top. Otherwise," she trailed off, then started scratching her neck as if bothered by sweat. Purposefully changing the subject, I figured this was it. They'd be furious with each other for weeks. But moments later, I heard them laughing, joking around. It seemed they didn't care about me witnessing their private lives. Their door remained wide open, a clear invitation for anyone to see. I imagined Uncle Mark's pent-up desire after being away. Or perhaps Aunt Caroline was expertly fanning the flames to distract him from her revealing attire. The next morning, after Uncle Mark had left for work, I couldn't help but make a veiled comment to Aunt Caroline. "Auntie, Uncle," I started, trying to sound casual, maybe a little more privacy. "I mean, you guys were pretty open last night. And your voice, Auntie, it carries." She simply shrugged, a hint of defiance in her eyes. "What's it to you, Ethan? If the door's open, what? You peeking in on your aunt and uncle wrestling?" She leaned closer, her voice dropping conspiratorially. "Next time, I won't bother with clothes at all. And then your uncle can give you a piece of his mind." I chuckled nervously. "Auntie, is Uncle Mark still going on business trips these days?" She scoffed. "Oh, business trips this, business trips that. Your uncle is always off chasing some wild goose, working on those clean water for the poor projects or education initiatives. He's got a husband's title, but he's never around. Money piles up, but he's always gone. If it weren't for family, for all of you, I would have left him ages ago. How much can one woman take? Being alone all the time? Yeah, but at least you're lucky. I ventured, then immediately regretted it. She smiled, a knowing glint in her eyes. Lucky? How so? Well, now you have me here, right? To keep you company, I mumbled. Aunt Caroline laughed, a genuine, unrestrained sound. Oh, Ethan, you're such a country boy. I don't think you're quite cut out for me. Maybe you should find someone else. Someone you can just pay for a good time? Oh, my dear nephew, don't talk like that, she scolded playfully. If you don't feel sorry for your uncle, at least feel sorry for me. Then, true to form, she led me to the bathroom, insisting that only water could truly cleanse the soul and ease the heart. Often, Uncle Mark would be out of the house, and Aunt Caroline would become incredibly generous with me. We'd eat lavish meals, one course after another, and then, without fail, she'd drag me into her bedroom. All right, she'd say, a mischievous glint in her eyes. The top mouth is full. Now for the bottom one. I was exhausted by her insatiable desires. Aunt Caroline was only in her early 40s, but her passion, her appetite for intimacy, was astounding. It was a level of beauty and desire that would put much younger women to shame. Auntie, please, I'd beg. Playfully, I have studies today. Can I owe you one for tomorrow? You can study later. Sweetie, she'd insist. Auntie just needs a little favor now. I never knew if Uncle Mark suspected anything. But one evening, out of the blue, I overheard him talking to Aunt Caroline. You know, honey, he said, a strange note in his voice. I've noticed you and Ethan seem to get along really well lately. You say something, and he jumps right to it. Sometimes, I almost think you two are like a married couple. My heart pounded in my chest, but Aunt Caroline remained perfectly calm, her retort quick and sharp. Oh, darling, what nonsense are you talking? Someone might hear you and laugh us out of town. He's just a boy, a nephew, our own flesh and blood. Why would I ever look at him that way? She then added, almost as an afterthought, honestly, honey, you only suspect me because you see me being myself. But truly, who would want me? I slipped back to my room, trying to calm my racing heart, feeling sleepy, almost fading into unconsciousness, just as I drifted off. A whisper startled me awake. Ethan? Ethan? My heart jumped. Oh no, is this house haunted? Who would be calling my name at 2 a.m. with Uncle Mark right here? 2 minutes later, the voice called again. Ethan, open the door. Ethan, open the door. I nearly peed my pants. It must be a ghost. I flipped on the light, and there, standing at my door, was a woman with disheveled hair, her face obscured. Who is it? Who's here to take me? Who is it? Who are you? How did you get in? It's me, Aunt Caroline. Open the door for Auntie. I almost fainted. It was Aunt Caroline, in the middle of the night, with Uncle Mark in the house. What was she doing here? Auntie, wait a minute. I fumbled with the blanket, quickly unbolted the door, and she slipped in, pretending to comb her hair. Oh, your uncle. she whispered, her voice laced with exasperation. He's a government official, always called to emergency meetings in the middle of the night for floods and storms. The house is practically drowning, and he just leaves me here. Can you finish what he started? Sweetie, he was halfway through. There was nothing more to say, nothing more to explain. It was pointless. And then, she made me do it 5 times. Auntie, Auntie, why are you my aunt? I groaned. She feigned shyness, like a newlywed bride. Your uncle, he's only good for making money. Nothing else. If he were half the man you are, Ethan, I'd thank him forever. My grades plummeted, spiraling downward, and though I tried to hide it, the report card eventually arrived, and my dad knew. He scolded me mercilessly, pulling me straight back to Harmony Creek. Aunt Caroline pleaded, did everything she could, but my dad wouldn't listen. He's disgraced me, he muttered, shaking his head. Back to the countryside for him. Children these days, no ambition, no focus, just music and games, absolutely useless. I felt a pang of sadness at his words, but more than that, a deep sense of shame. Aunt Caroline was my aunt, and I, her nephew, had been intimate with her. There was nothing about her I didn't know, even that tiny beauty mark down there. So, after a year of studying in the city, I had failed my family's expectations. My knowledge was a big, fat zero. Aunt Caroline stood frozen, watching me follow my father's retreating back towards the car. Uncle Mark, silent and grim-faced, couldn't bring himself to say a word. My dismal academic record spoke for itself. Aunt Caroline desperately wanted me to stay, her pleas growing more frantic. But it was useless. I saw tears welling in her eyes, silent drops tracing paths down her cheeks, while Uncle Mark remained stony, unmoving. My heart ached as I walked away. From the day my dad dragged me back to Harmony Creek, shamed by my neglected studies, I felt like a ghost. The fire had gone out of me. Nothing held my interest anymore. My dad's constant lectures about my failure just washed over me. I'd wander alone for hours, seeking out quiet spots, just trying to process everything. How could I explain? Growing up, I'd never been pampered, never given much attention. And then, suddenly, Aunt Caroline had taught me about the world, about being a man, in a way no one else ever had. I'd developed a taste for something forbidden, something intoxicating, and now, being forced to go without, it was unbearable. But even if I wanted to recapture those intense experiences, where would I find them? And she had been so generous, teaching me how to please a woman, how to make her soar. Now, my dad was pushing me to find a wife, insisting I'd make her happy. The thought only fueled my resentment. I felt trapped, clinging to a desperate, fleeting hope that seemed impossible. I became withdrawn, spending my days slumped in a chair, swatting flies half-heartedly. They didn't even bother me anymore. It was like I was well-fed before. And now, without that particular kind of female presence, I was restless, agitated. Then, one day, completely out of the blue, Uncle Mark and Aunt Caroline showed up in Harmony Creek for a family visit. I had no idea where Uncle Mark and my dad had gone for their drinks. But when they returned, my dad asked me, "So, you want to go back to the city with your uncle and aunt, don't you?" My heart leapt into my throat. "No, Dad, of course not," I blurted, denying it instantly. He pretended to press further. "Oh, you don't? Fine, I won't force you. Your uncle was really pushing for you to come back. Said he wanted to mentor you, look after you. But if you refuse, I'll just tell him so he doesn't think I'm holding you back." I stammered, "No, Dad, if you say it's okay, then I'll go." My dad's smile was knowing. He knows I want to, despite my protests. Just then, Aunt Caroline walked in, saving me from further awkwardness. "It's because Uncle Mark forbade it. That's why he's shy," she interjected smoothly. "Let me talk to him. I'll get him in line. Make you proud, Uncle." She gave me a subtle wink. I listened, not quite daring to believe my dad would be so understanding, so generous. But as I thought about it, I knew this whole arrangement had to be Aunt Caroline's doing. I admired her, truly. That woman could orchestrate anything, like a mastermind. So, from a small-town kid who'd felt utterly stuck, I transformed in an instant. I scrambled around, frantically packing my bags. Aunt Caroline followed me, fluttering about. "Let me help you, sweetie. We need to make sure you catch that bus." Inside my bedroom, just the two of us, she whispered, "Did you miss me that much? You look so lost." I stayed silent. Aunt Caroline nudged me. "I knew it. That's why I worked so hard to convince your uncle. And then to get him to talk to your dad. To let you come back. Be a good boy, and Auntie will take good care of you again. I promise to make up for all the time you missed." She paused, then added, guessing my unspoken feelings, "Poor Ethan. You look so thin. You've only been away a short while. But you've lost weight. This time, Auntie will make sure you get strong and healthy so your dad doesn't worry." Her words, soft and loving, dissolved all the frustration and bitterness I'd been carrying. I leaned into her, feeling the steady rhythm of her heartbeat. A warm, comforting sound. I don't know how long the bus ride was, but when I heard passengers stirring, calling out for the ferry, collecting their bags, I knew we had crossed the river. Aunt Caroline sprang to her feet, pulling me along, eagerly waiting for the ferry to dock so we could leap onto the shore. From there, she drove me on her motorcycle to a roadside motel. It had a rather interesting name. The motel room, with its faded wallpaper and a faint scent of stale cigarette smoke, was called the Oasis. Aunt Caroline paid cash, her movements swift and practiced. Inside, she immediately kicked off her sandals, the thwop of them hitting the worn carpet surprisingly loud in the quiet room. She turned to me, her eyes glinting. "Well, Ethan, quite the journey, wasn't it? Bet you're parched." She crossed to the mini fridge, pulling out 2 small bottles of water. "Here, drink up, hydrate." I took a bottle, my gaze fixed on her. She hadn't changed, not really. The way her thin summer dress clung to her, the almost careless way she moved. It was all still so familiar, so potent. "Auntie," I started, my voice barely a whisper. "Why here? Why not just go home?" She paused, her back to me as she fiddled with the cap of her water bottle. "Home? Ethan, sweetie, you think your uncle would appreciate me bringing you straight back to our home? Looking like this, after everything? We need a moment to reacclimate, to make sure everything looks normal." She turned, her smile soft, almost tender. Besides, I wanted to talk, just us, no distractions. She sat on the edge of the bed, patting the spot next to her. I sat down, the cheap mattress springs groaning beneath us. "Ethan," she began, her voice low and serious, a tone I rarely heard from her. "I know things got complicated in the city. Your father was right to be upset about your grades. You do need to focus on your future. But don't think for a second I didn't care about you." She reached out, her cool fingers tracing the line of my jaw. "You're a good boy, Ethan, and you have so much potential. Potential I don't want to see wasted." My mind flashed back to those nights. The lessons she'd given me, the way she'd made me feel seen, desired, in a way my innocent relationship with Sarah never had. It was a strange, intoxicating mix of shame and longing. I missed it, the raw, unfiltered intimacy that had both terrified and thrilled me. "Auntie," I whispered, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. I missed you. More than just, family." Her eyes softened, a faint flush rising on her cheeks. "I know, sweetie, I missed you too. It was lonely without you." She paused, then her smile returned, that familiar mischievous glint back in her eyes. "But now you're here, and we have some catching up to do. Don't we? Your dad wants you to be strong and healthy. Remember? And Auntie is here to make sure you get all the nutrition you need." She reached for the zipper of her dress, her gaze never leaving mine. The sound of the zipper was loud in the small room, a clear signal. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it, the return, the unspoken agreement that education was about to resume. I knew it was wrong. Every fiber of my moral compass screamed at me. But the magnetic pull was too strong, the longing that had gnawed at me since I'd left the city. The ache for her touch, it overshadowed everything else. As the dress slid down, pooling around her feet, she stood before me, silhouetted against the motel room's single window. "Come here, Ethan," she murmured, her voice a siren's call. "Let Auntie make sure you're truly comfortable again." The motel room became our secret world for the next few days. Just a little buffer zone. Aunt Caroline had explained, to get you settled, before we head back to the house. It was a flimsy excuse, a transparent veil over what was truly happening. But I didn't question it. I was caught in her orbit, once again experiencing the intoxicating mix of desire, confusion, and a strange comfort that only she seemed to offer. She was more than just an aunt, she was a force. A teacher, a temptress. One morning, as we lay tangled in the motel sheets, she traced patterns on my chest. "You know, Ethan," she whispered, her voice soft and drowsy. "Your grades back then, they were a mess. Your dad was so disappointed." She sighed. "He truly wants the best for you. To see you succeed, to have a life better than his." I shifted, feeling a familiar pain of guilt. "I know, Auntie, I messed up. I let everyone down." She tilted her head, looking at me with those deep, knowing eyes. "You didn't just mess up, Ethan. You learned things, important things, about life, about women, about yourself." She paused, a faint smile playing on her lips. "And now, you have a chance to take those lessons and apply them. To become the man you were always meant to be, a man who understands desire. Yes, but also ambition. The words hung in the air, a strange blend of past indulgence and future expectation. She was right. My time with her had been an education, though not the one my family intended. It had opened my eyes to a world beyond Harmony Creek, not just the city's concrete sprawl, but the complexities of human emotion, the raw power of attraction, and the depths of my own buried desires. When we finally returned to Uncle Mark's house, a week later, the transition was seamless, almost disturbingly so. Aunt Caroline was the picture of a supportive wife, bustling about, preparing meals, ensuring everything was perfect for Uncle Mark, who greeted me with a firm handshake and a stern but hopeful lecture about making the most of this second chance. He seemed genuinely convinced that my time in Harmony Creek had been a period of reflection, a turning point. He even arranged for me to start classes at a community college, a stepping stone to a university, with a clear path towards a business degree. Life fell into a strange, unsettling rhythm. During the day, I attended classes, trying to absorb the concepts of economics and marketing, my mind often drifting back to the motel room, to the scent of Aunt Caroline's perfume, to the feeling of her skin against mine. In the evenings, I'd study, or pretend to, while Aunt Caroline would float through the house, her presence a constant, electric current. Uncle Mark was often late, engrossed in his work, and those hours were filled with an unspoken tension, a silent negotiation between us. Sometimes she would simply sit near me, a book in her lap, her eyes occasionally flicking up to meet mine, a secret understanding passing between us. Other times, the lessons would resume, conducted with a new level of discretion, a quiet intensity that was almost more potent than the brazenness of before. I thought about Sarah back in Harmony Creek, a pang of regret in my chest. That innocent love felt a million miles away, a dream from a life I no longer inhabited. My world had expanded, or perhaps been irrevocably altered. I was no longer the naive country boy who only wanted to fix bikes. I was a student, yes, but I was also something else entirely, forged in the fires of a forbidden intimacy. The future remained uncertain. Would I truly apply myself to these new studies? Could I compartmentalize this secret life? Or would the education Aunt Caroline had given me, the one beyond textbooks, ultimately define my path? As I looked out at the sprawling city lights from my bedroom window, I knew one thing. I was no longer just Ethan from Harmony Creek. I was a man navigating a world far more complex and thrilling than I had ever imagined, forever marked by the unforgettable lessons of Aunt Caroline. And so, as we close the book on Ethan's journey, we're left with a tapestry of emotions and unanswered questions. He may have returned to the city under the guise of academic pursuit, but the real lessons he absorbed were far from any textbook, forever marked by the unforgettable experiences with Aunt Caroline. Ethan is no longer just the naive country boy who dreamt of fixing bikes. He's a man navigating a world far more complex and thrilling than he ever imagined, grappling with desire, ambition, and the blurred lines of a forbidden intimacy that defined his education. The future remains uncertain for Ethan. Will he truly apply himself to his new studies? Can he compartmentalize this secret life? Or will the profound, unconventional education Aunt Caroline bestowed upon him ultimately define his path? As he looks out at the sprawling city lights, we know one thing for sure: Ethan's world has irrevocably altered. And he's forever changed by the woman who taught him things he couldn't have even dreamed of. Thank you for joining me on this incredibly captivating journey through Ethan's story. If you found yourself intrigued, surprised, or even a little uncomfortable, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more captivating tales, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the human experience. Until next time, keep exploring the stories that make us question, grow, and truly understand the complexities of life. See you soon.